Now moving on to our fourth segment for the day. It is entitled the Millennial in Corporate Leadership. Sure that this will be exciting for everyone. And without further ado, please help me welcome on stage our first speaker for this segment, the Deputy Chief Operating Officer of the Ayala Malls Group, Ms. Marianna Zobel de Ayala Aboitiz.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Pasensya lang, I have no raffle or giveaway. I hope you'll still join along anyway. But I have to say that I really love all of your energy, and it's exciting to be here today. I'm hoping that we can also harness this same energy to help our fellow countrymen that have suffered from the storms over the weekend. Just a quick thank you to the JFinex Board of Directors for including me today, to the President, Ms. Marivic Espano, to Mr. Benny Sullivan, the JFinex Director, as well as Ms. Dada, as the committee chair, for putting on such an incredible event and giving us the chance as millennials to join in. I thought for today, I'd keep it simple. I'll start by giving you a bit of a background on my personal career path and journey, so that hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from when I share what I've learned, in the hopes that it'll help you as well in your own journey. This first part is probably the most painful part. Talking about oneself often is. Growing up, I always found business and commerce exciting. I can't point to an exact beginning of when this all began, but I do remember, and I'm reminded, of one morning at breakfast. I think I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. I saw my dad reading the newspaper. I guess I had heard some reference to buzzwords, or maybe I heard him talking over the phone, because I asked him, "Dad, how does the stock market work?" He put the newspaper down and he took a deep breath for a minute. I'll never forget his face because he looked so tired. He was probably thinking, do I really have to explain this to her right now? He claims that after a few months later, I followed up with a question on the peso-dollar rate, and I guess I've been giving him morning headaches ever since. I grew up here in Manila for most of my life, and then I lived in the US for over 10 years. I actually studied philosophy, politics, and economics at Harvard College in Boston. Wow. I guess I didn't have to do the raffle, so thank you. During my college summers, I worked in many different industries. My objective was to cross off as many things off the list that I could, to try and get to where my skills and my interests overlap. The summer before college, actually the year before college, I worked as a production assistant for a big Hollywood TV show. I was 17 years old at the time, and I was desperate to experience the film and entertainment industry. I thought there was a lot of opportunity there. And to be honest, I lived in a family full of TV and film buffs, so it was simply just quite exciting. I started at the bottom of the barrel, lowest on the totem pole. I did everything that needed to be done that no one else wanted to do. From getting coffee or breakfast for the actors, working out payroll for 200 people on the set, getting permits for shoot locations. Eventually, as I gained ground and experience and proved myself, the role started to become more strategic. I was given the task of making script edits and planning and budgeting for future shoots. I can't begin to explain how formative this experience was for me. Among other things, it taught me discipline, as the days were generally about 14 to 16 hours long and we started before 5 a.m. And it taught me grit. getting things done despite the circumstance, making the impossible possible. I used my summer breaks throughout college to do what I'll call rapid testing on my fit across different industries. I worked another summer in film and entertainment, this time for a global distribution company. I quickly checked entertainment off my list after those two experiences. Then, I worked for a firm that looks to drive growth in emerging markets through entrepreneurship by empowering and advising mid-scale entrepreneurs. Following that, I actually worked for an e-commerce startup, probably a little bit ahead of its time. All of these experiences undoubtedly helped shape me and who I am today. But more than anything, they helped me check things off the list. Sometimes it's easier to check off what you don't want to do rather than searching in an endless abyss of what you might think you want to do. During the last year of college, I explored opportunities in financial services as I felt that learning about how the global markets work, combined with the structure of an established corporate institution, would be a great learning platform. And it was. While I was working in New York for JP Morgan, I found myself consistently drawn to the news relating to the changing business and political climate of the Philippines. Consumption and economic growth were at all-time highs, and the government was regarded as exceptionally transparent and predictable. I myself wanted to be a part of this exciting phase for the Philippines, and after a few years, I decided to leave the bank and look for a new opportunity in our home country. Today, I am proud to work with Ayala Malls, fighting for the attention of the changing and growingly demanding Filipino consumer amidst much choice is both exciting and challenging. I'd love the chance to humbly share with you some of the things I have learned along the way, in the hopes that it may help you in your own journeys. I'll share with you 5 points that summarize what I hope can lead to success in a work environment. This won't be exhaustive or complete by any means, but I hope it gives you something to get you started. My first out of the 5 guiding lights, and I actually wish I had seen Mr. Consing's slides before I printed mine, is actually to seek purpose, not necessarily passion. You may have heard, as I have, the supposed importance of loving what you do. I personally feel that the chances of finding both A, job that you love, and B, a job that you're good at, can be quite rare. If you found that, congratulations. But for the remaining 99% of us, I'll share what has worked for me in seeking purpose. Passion can sometimes be fleeting, whereas purpose can drive deeper meaning, and therefore possibly a more enduring drive. Let's take my case as an example. Working in operations and mall operations isn't always the most glamorous. Problems seem to pop out of every single crevice, whether leaks, running out of toilet paper, noise complaints, or a missing delivery permit. Some might say it would be difficult to be passionate about such things. But I've always encouraged our team to see working in the mall business as a massive responsibility, most especially in areas with minimal parks or outdoor civic space. We become the home for very important milestone moments: birthdays, graduations, anniversaries, and celebrations. We can be the breath of fresh air, especially in denser, busier city centers, with a break of green and outdoor breathing space. The site of cultural and social outlets. We are often where families create special memories, sometimes the sight of a first kiss, or even a last argument. Being the stage for these memorable moments, for the downtime and the relaxed time, is a huge responsibility and something we take very seriously. Having this larger goal, I think, has been helpful in keeping our north. Embrace the fact that you may never love your job 100% or 365 days in the year, but that's okay. Work towards a broader purpose, and you'll find reasons to push forward even in the more difficult of days. My second point is to suggest to be a student forever. It is a commitment that I can assure you will bring you much success, not because it has proven for me, as I've only been in the workforce for 7 years now, but because it shows in many successful people today. In the malls business, it starts as simply as studying the market and our competition, maybe what I'm doing today. We encourage our teams to truly master their market. This means understanding the competitive landscape, from customer service to parking to cinema rates, concept mix offerings. But more importantly, it means maintaining a global picture on industry and trends. And most importantly, making the time for it. It is dedicating time to reading and exposing oneself to industry trends and ensure that we stay global in thinking. Nowadays, it is increasingly easy to do so. With the internet and YouTube, I always tell my team, we have no excuse. While it is relatively easy to access information, making the time can be more of a challenge. In my case, I am recommitting to using my first and last 30 minutes to an hour of the day to catch up on the latest news, both industry and macro, to be aware and drive my thinking for the day, for the week, and for the month. Setting up a schedule for yourself might make it easier to commit, and it will keep it top of mind to ensure it does not fall off the page when things get busy. Thirdly, take breaks to put yourself in the shoes of this customer. This is really important today, more than any time before, as the use of social media has made our customer more and more discerning. I know this sounds typical, but this will be helpful in two ways, both externally and internally. On the external client side, it cannot be repeated enough, the importance of always maintaining the customer view. It might not be new news to you, but it's something I would suggest to make a habit. Ensure that there are exercises in place to force you to keep that mentality. For the mall's business, this means maintaining a view of our customers that walk through our doors every day, but also our merchants, who are our customers in a different light. I say this because for different industries it might mean different things. In the case of finance, it might mean your client, your partner. Everyone has an end customer, even though you're not in a directly consumer-facing business. As another perspective, when it comes to team-based work, always take a second to put yourself in the shoes of someone else before making a final decision or pressing send. When you're preparing a brief or a presentation, it can be helpful to think, will this make sense to the person I'm about to send this to or explain this to? Do they have any biases or existing ideas that I'll need to address? You may go further in negotiations and discussions if you're aware of this up front. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to agree with them or their views. Just use it to strategize. For the fourth point, this is what I'm especially passionate about. Always ask for feedback and celebrate constructive criticism. I find it critical to success to be as aware of yourself as possible, both your strengths and your weaknesses, and build your own continued path of self-improvement. Only with continued and regular feedback will you be able to be the best you can be. And if you're not getting honest feedback, don't be afraid to ask for it. In my case, when I began working at Ayala, I had this constant fear that people didn't feel comfortable about being honest with me. So actually, I would send out regular anonymous online forms, and I used it as a chance to get real-time feedback from people to see how they perceive me and what I could improve on. It's equally important to celebrate constructive criticism and create an environment where constructive criticism is common and accepted. This allows us to swiftly and constantly improve where possible, and where we all help be our best selves without wasting any time. We owe it to our teams and ourselves to build this environment and ensure that they are positioned to be their best selves as well. For my last point, I recommend to always define accountability. Teamwork is important and crucial. The saying, "we'll go further together," is so true. But you can get to the end goal faster if it's painfully clear who is supposed to do what as part of the whole picture. Also known as divide and conquer. But making sure that there's one ultimate owner, one captain, one conductor, one director, ensures a clarity that cannot be competed with, especially when things get stressful and busy. That's when it starts to get confusing and hazy. Again, I always say everyone can help, everyone can contribute, everyone can comment, all are welcome to react. But let's ultimately keep to one owner, one ultimate name on each item. The clarity will allow people to focus as needed and to get to the right goal as efficiently as possible. So for today, I hope I haven't bored you yet. I'll just go ahead and summarize what I'd suggest form part of your own guiding principles in some form or another, in the hopes of building an environment of excellence and success for each of you. Feel free to take from this what works or take none at all. Number one, seek purpose. In this, I discussed that it can sometimes be difficult to depend on passion to drive you, as you may not necessarily be good at what you love. But if you are able to identify and hold on to a broader meaning of purpose, I believe it will help you drive further for longer. Number two, be a student forever. Commit to being a student forever by forcing the time. Dedicate a fixed time in your day or in your week where you read up on news, search the internet or YouTube for competitive or industry insights that will undoubtedly make you more astute in your decisions. Number three, put yourself in someone else's shoes. This is in two ways. Firstly, in ensuring you always take time and make a habit of rechecking the customer perspective to ensure you are grounded by what's important to them. And secondly, by doing so internally, by checking yourself for the goals of the party of which you're going to have a discussion or even a debate with. Number four, ask for feedback and celebrate constructive criticism. By creating an environment that celebrates constructive criticism, I assure you, you will bring out the best in yourself and in your colleagues. And lastly, define accountability. Making accountability and ownership clear ensures a clarity that, as I said, cannot be competed with. This will allow for the best kind of teamwork and the most ultimate efficiency. I hope those 5 points give you a starting point to consider as you forge your own paths, which I'm sure will be exciting and successful. If any of those points make sense to you today, then I hope you'll consider joining us at the Ayala Malls or Ayala Land. Thank you so much for giving me this time today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marianna Zobel de Ayala Aboitiz, the Deputy Chief Operating Officer of the Ayala Malls Group. I really like what you said about seeking one's purpose and identifying that purpose to broaden that purpose. And perhaps, I think everybody can relate to that, everybody in this room. Thank you so much, Ms. Marianna. Turning it over now to Vince for a quick Q&A now.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Marianna, for that very insightful talk. So we have a student here who has a question for you.
Good afternoon. I am Venus Villarin from Gordon College. My question will be, what particular characteristics that millennial leaders should have in order to find their purpose in the corporate world?
Good question. I think there are so many characteristics. One thing that I think I reported a couple of times in my speech, so I'll mention it, is I think the idea of compassion and understanding. I talked about how important it is to be able to put yourself in the shoes of others, whether that's your customer, your colleague, your partner, or the person you're negotiating with. And I think compassion, not just literally as to having understanding and empathy, but also compassion meaning being able to really understand where the other person is coming from. In our fast-paced world, I think that's something that will help get you further and something that you can take with you, whether in the business world or outside.
Thank you so much, Ms. Marianna.